Dzień dobry, good morning. Ashlee has been introduced. We had a long talk before, so we know what you're not going to be talking about. But let's start with a question that I know you've been asked so many times, you're tired of it. But I know everybody here wants to hear your answer. When you look at Elon Musk today, and you should know that he knows Elon Musk really, really well. When you look at him today and you compare him to the guy you knew in 2015, 2017, is it a different guy or is it the same guy?
Yeah. Ooh. It's a good question. You know, in some ways, obviously he's very different. I first met him around 2012 and spent 3 years reporting my book and the figure back then. Clearly, you know, there's some basic things. He was socially much more liberal and tended to lean left and was doing climate change fighting and all these things that were a little more obvious. So I would never have guessed this like hard turn to the right. That part came as a surprise. I would not have expected him to have really partnered up with someone like Trump. Elon, I think I knew back then, would have seen through Trump a bit more, I think. So those parts are a surprise. This kind of larger than life, you know, endlessly aspirational character, that part.
When you talk about his aspirations, is money his main aspiration? Is it his main motivation?
Yeah, I mean, everyone always tries to fight me a little bit on this, and they swear, you know, money must drive him. I mean, I think if you know him well, whether you like him or not, I just do not believe that money is his motivator. I think he's always, you just can't look at the evidence and really make a good case for that, I don't think, because, you know, early on, he had sold PayPal. He'd made $200 million. He immediately risked all that money on the two worst things you could possibly do, a rocket company and an electric car company. It's sort of just a recipe for throwing money away. And so no, I think he's driven, you know, I think he's evolved over the years. Going back to your first question, he was like a relatively shy, yeah, he was a nerd. He grew up as kind of like a loner. When I knew him, he was trying to prove himself in the business world. He was kind of insecure, and I think as time has gone on, he did well at business. He made a lot of money. He has like this addiction to the next big thing, and so it became, you know, money, attention, and then power is the latest thing, and then now, I just wonder what's left to aspire to. It's sort of hard to figure out what the next thing would be.
So it seems like he inspired to be in public service, and once Donald Trump came into office, he became a public official. And now we hear, and you know, everybody in Europe, as you know, is following what he's doing with the U.S. government and within the U.S. government. Is your understanding that now he's quitting politics and he's going back to business because Tesla says, you know, went up in flames, or he's done with the government?
I mean, the indications are that I think the damage to Tesla, I think, is much more severe than he would have calculated, and you can tell he's rolling back to try and fix that. Whether he's like done with politics and this new, you know, he's like this global influencer, I suspect that's not going away, because I think it's part of this addiction to fame, to power, to all these things. And so it's hard for me to imagine the guy just going back to making spaceships to go to Mars again.
So he's human after all, and the addiction to power is there. So he is addicted to power. He's not giving up.
No, I mean, you know, he's limited by, in the U.S., in that he can never be president because he was born in South Africa, and I think that's probably frustrating to him. But no, whether he's beside Trump or not, I suspect he'll still be trying to wield his influence and power in different ways.
You're following everything that's happening in Silicon Valley, and you told me last night about this amazing movement from Silicon Valley to Texas. In other words, Silicon Valley is moving to Texas. And you mentioned the Star City in Texas, and I want you to tell all of us about the place in Texas. You think that this is the future of technology, the future of the world, actually, and definitely the future of the Silicon Valley.
Well, in some ways, yeah. Okay, so last week I went with Sam Altman from OpenAI to Abilene, Texas. If you've never had the pleasure, it's in West Texas, which is sort of the middle of nowhere. There's tumbleweeds, things like that. It's really like an old, it's where the oil industry is based out in West Texas. And so I went with Sam. They're building this massive data center facility there called Stargate. And to give you some perspective, this started a few months ago. They have 5,000 people working there. It's 1,000 acres. They're building 10 giant data centers. Each one of those 10 data centers cost $50 billion.
Can you repeat the number?
Yeah, 50 billion. 60% of that cost is just the computing chips, the GPUs that go into that data center. And so, OpenAI soon will release GPT-5, but this data center, this will be the home for the equivalent of GPT-6, the next great leap forward in AI. And yeah, I guess I was struck by the size and the scope of this project. And there's sort of funny things about it. They have natural gas pipelines going straight into these data centers.
So it takes a huge amount of energy, right?
Huge amount,
to run the place. So that's why they did it in West Texas,
that's
because
right.
They have natural gas, and you said that they have their own pipeline going straight from Earth to the city.
Exactly, and I'll get the megawatt figures wrong and everything, but each one of those buildings, if my memory serves me right, it's more power than all of San Francisco going into just...
So who's paying for all of it? Who's going to use it?
Well, OpenAI will use it. Oracle, it's a partnership. There's Oracle, Microsoft, SoftBank. It's all these companies aligning to buy a piece of the future. OpenAI will train its next models there and have, obviously, first dibs on the technology. We were talking about it last night. When I started to hear these numbers and I was thinking about this trip coming to Europe, I hate to say it, but it became quite clear to me that I think the US and China are on a path toward the future that the rest of the world is not on.
By rest of the world, you mean Europe?
Yeah, if you think each one of these buildings is $50 billion, they're going to have 10. This is just one site of multiple sites that they'll have in the United States. I don't know of any European project that's even a fraction of trying to enter this race. So unless you're the US and China, and to some degree, Saudi Arabia seem the only places willing to make this type of investment. So you're either on the cutting edge of AI and leading the technology, or really you just become a consumer of it.
So when you talk to people who are leaders in the field of AI, what's your understanding where the AI is going to? What's going to happen in next, not a year or 2 years, but next 10, 20, 30 years?
Well, I've been reporting a book on OpenAI for the last 2 years, and some mornings I wake up, if you believe these people I talk to who are not really trying to hype the technology, the people working on it are actually just as afraid of it as the rest of us. So, they're not trying to sell you on it. They're quite rational. If you talk to half of them, they will tell you, they think in 18 months the world is upside down completely, that what we've seen so far is just a taste of what is coming in very short order, and that literally every job will be put on its head. And then, there's another scenario which I think is the scenario that Sam actually believes in, that this feels a little bit more like the internet, where it's this revolutionary technology that kind of oozes through society over multiple decades, and we all end up with phones with all the world's information in our pocket and don't think about it.
So you think people like Sam Altman or other people who involved in the AI research, they don't know what's going to happen, how it's going to spread out and how it's going to develop?
No, it's hilarious. I mean, nobody really knows, because in order to get to that place I'm talking about, there have to be breakthroughs with the technology that are not yet solved. But what we've seen over the last few years is that every 18 months, every 3 years, there seem to be these huge leap forwards that arrive on a regular basis, much like they did with semiconductors for decades. And so that's what they're betting on. If they're wrong, if we've sucked up all of the world's information already, we've processed it, we've ended up with this version of AI, you could see a scenario where that gets incrementally better year after year. The scenario I'm talking about would, this would require a leap forward, but they're very confident that that will happen.
You said that Europe is far behind the US and China. Is the only limitation for the AI research money? You mentioned last night that every breakthrough in AI, in field of AI, is 10 times more expensive than the previous one. So is it all about money? How much money you put in the research?
It's a funny field. It's sort of different than anything I've covered before. So you have the parts we were just talking about, where there is engineering and artistry and these breakthroughs that are required. But then there's a very, very crude part of this, where it's just you buy more computers and the AI performs better. And those data centers in Texas, we've already sucked up all of the world's information and processed it and ended up with ChatGPT and Claude and these other things. They'll be used to refine the data further, to take a second pass, and to see if we can extract more out of it. Almost just like the natural gas in the ground being refined will refine the data. And if the way things have gone, you just throw more and more and more computers at that, and it works.
Actually, we have to go. So let me just remind everyone that you will be in the bookstore. What time? Do you remember?
Yes. Oh, after lunch.
After lunch. So go to lunch, then after lunch, go to the bookstore. Both of your books are there to be bought. One about Elon Musk and the other one about space research. And Ashlee will sign them. Thank you so much. We have to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you.